Tang Sanzang and his disciples were blocked at Yellow Wind Ridge, where Sanzang was captured by the Tiger Vanguard. Wukong defeated the Vanguard, who was killed by Bajie, but was blinded by the Yellow Wind King's Samadhi wind. After healing his eyes with the Dharma Protector's help, Wukong learned only Lingji Bodhisattva could subdue the demon. Guided by the Great White Planet Lord, Wukong sought Lingji, who used the flying dragon staff to capture the Yellow Wind King, revealed as a yellow weasel. They rescued Sanzang and continued westward. Sanzang and his disciples, Wukong and Bajie, left Mount Buddha and traveled westward. As night fell, they spotted a village in the distance. The three decided to seek lodging. At the village gate, they saw an old man leaning on a bamboo bed, chanting Buddhist prayers. Sanzang stepped forward, clasped his hands in greeting, and introduced himself as a monk from Tang traveling west for scriptures, requesting shelter for the night. The old man shook his head and said,
"The journey to the west is too difficult. You should head east instead."
Wukong stepped forward to argue, but the old man, seeing Wukong and Bajie's unusual appearances, mistook them for demons and shouted to close the doors. As the argument escalated, some young men and women arrived with an elderly woman from the south of the village. Seeing the commotion, they approached to investigate. Bajie twitched his ears and stretched his long snout, scaring the group into stumbling and fleeing in all directions. Sanzang worked hard to explain, and the old man's family finally calmed down. After exchanging formalities, the old man asked the younger members to serve tea. Sanzang then asked, "Elder, why do you say the journey west for scriptures is so difficult?" The old man replied,
"The scriptures themselves aren't difficult to obtain, but the path is treacherous. 10 miles west of here lies the Yellow Wind Ridge, stretching about 500 miles, filled with demons. Without extraordinary skills, it's impossible to pass."
Wukong replied confidently, "No problem. With me and my junior brothers, no demon can stand in our way." At that moment, the vegetarian meal was served. While Sanzang clasped his hands and chanted a prayer, Bajie had already devoured a bowl and kept asking for more. He ended up eating all the food and still claimed he was only half full. That night, they stayed in the guest room. At dawn, the three had breakfast and thanked the family before departing. The old man said, "If you encounter any trouble on the road, please return here." Wukong replied, "As monks, we never retrace our steps." They bade farewell and headed west. By midday, they reached a towering mountain, its jade-green peaks adorned with intricate patterns and its cliffs veiled in mist, a truly perilous sight. As they admired the mountain, a sudden whirlwind arose. Sanzang exclaimed, "Wukong, this wind feels strange. Be extra vigilant." Wukong let the wind pass, grabbed its tail, sniffed it, and said, "This is no ordinary wind, it reeks of trouble. A demon must be behind it." Before he finished speaking, a striped tiger leaped down from the mountain with a deafening roar, scaring Sanzang so badly that he tumbled off his horse. Bajie dropped the luggage, grabbed his rake, and shouted, "Beast! Where do you think you're going?" He charged forward and swung his rake at the tiger's head. The tiger suddenly stood upright, used its left paw to claw at its chest, and with a tearing sound, shed its skin. Standing at the roadside was a fierce-looking demon. The demon shouted, "Hold on! I am the vanguard of the Yellow Wind King, patrolling this mountain to catch mortals for a feast. Who are you monks to attack me with weapons?" Bajie cursed, "I am a disciple of Tang Sanzang of the Great Tang, traveling west to seek scriptures. Surrender the path now, and I may spare your life. If you dare spout nonsense, my rake will show no mercy." Enraged, the demon leaped at Bajie, claws aiming for his face. Bajie dodged and countered with his rake. Unarmed, the demon couldn't hold his ground and pretended to falter before fleeing. Bajie chased him to a rocky area where the demon drew 2 bronze swords and turned to fight. The two clashed on the slope. Wukong said to Sanzang, "Don't worry, master. I'll go help Bajie defeat that demon so we can continue our journey." Sanzang, still shaken, kept reciting the Heart Sutra for courage. As Bajie fought, he grew stronger, while the demon lost his ability to counterattack. Wukong joined in with his cudgel, and together they drove the demon down the mountain. Panicked, the demon used a trick, rolled on the ground, and returned to his tiger form. Wukong and Bajie pursued relentlessly, determined to eliminate him for good. The demon, seeing Wukong and Bajie closing in, repeated his trick, shedding his skin and draping it over a large rock. He then transformed into a violent gust of wind and rushed toward Sanzang's meditation spot. Sanzang, focused on chanting, was caught off guard. The demon grabbed him and whisked him away on the fierce wind. Carrying Sanzang, the demon arrived at the cave entrance and stopped the wind. He told the gatekeeping little demon, "Report to the king that the Tiger Vanguard has captured a monk and is awaiting orders outside." The Yellow Wind King immediately summoned him in. The Tiger Vanguard knelt, presenting Sanzang with both hands, and said, "My lord, I was patrolling the mountain and encountered Tang Sanzang of the Great Tang, traveling west for scriptures. I have captured him for your enjoyment." The Yellow Wind King was alarmed. "I've heard that Tang Sanzang has a disciple, Sun Wukong, who is immensely powerful. How did you manage to capture him?" The Tiger Vanguard recounted the fight in detail. Fearing Wukong and Bajie's retaliation, the Yellow Wind King ordered Sanzang tied to the wind-fixing post in the back garden, planning to wait a few days before enjoying his food. Little demons dragged Sanzang away. Meanwhile, Wukong and Bajie pursued the tiger down the slope. Wukong struck it with his cudgel, only for shards of rock to fly, hurting his hand. Bajie also swung his rake, but it bounced back. Upon closer inspection, they realized it was tiger skin covering a rock. Wukong exclaimed, "This is bad. We've fallen for the demon's trick. Let's find Master quickly before the demon harms him." The two hurried back to Sanzang's meditation spot, only to find the white horse and luggage still there, but Sanzang was nowhere. Wukong, furious, stamped his feet and said, "Master has indeed been taken by the demon." Bajie, with tears in his eyes, asked,
"But where do we even begin to search?"
Wukong reassured him, "Don't cry. Crying weakens your resolve. The demon must be somewhere on this mountain, let's search." The two searched the mountains, crossing ridges and valleys, until they found a cave beneath a cliff. Wukong told Bajie to guard the luggage and horse in a sheltered spot while he went to fight the demon and save their master. At the cave entrance, Wukong saw the inscription "Yellow Wind Cave, Yellow Wind Ridge." He shouted, "Demon! Hand over my master, or I'll destroy your cave!" The gatekeeping demon rushed to report. Hearing that Wukong was at the door, the Yellow Wind King scolded the Tiger Vanguard. "I told you to patrol the mountain and bring back food, not capture Tang Sanzang. Now his disciple is here, what do we do?" The Tiger Vanguard said, "Don't worry, my king. I'll take 50 demons and capture the monkey." The Yellow Wind King agreed, promising to make him a sworn brother if he succeeded. Leading 50 strong little demons with drums and flags, the Tiger Vanguard came out wielding 2 bronze swords, shouting, "Which thief dares cause trouble here?" Wukong cursed, "Skinning beast! Hand over my master, and I'll spare you." The Tiger Vanguard replied, "Your master is about to be our king's feast, and now you're here too, just trading one for another." Angered, Wukong raised his cudgel and attacked. The Tiger Vanguard blocked with his swords, and they fought fiercely outside the cave. After a while, the Tiger Vanguard couldn't hold on and fled. too ashamed to return to the cave, he ran toward the hills. Wukong chased after him, refusing to let him escape. The chase led them to the hollow where Bajie was with the horse. Hearing the commotion, Bajie saw Wukong chasing the Tiger Vanguard, dropped the reins, and charged forward with his rake. The Tiger Vanguard, focused on escaping from behind, didn't watch the front and was struck on the head by Bajie's rake, leaving 9 holes. He fell dead on the spot. Bajie asked where their master was. Wukong replied, "The demon captured him and took him into the cave. You've earned credit for killing this one. Stay here to guard the horse and luggage while I deal with the old demon and rescue master." Bajie quickly agreed. Wukong, holding his iron cudgel in one hand and dragging the dead tiger with the other, arrived at Yellow Wind Cave and began shouting insults. Hearing that the Tiger Vanguard had been killed and that Wukong was at the cave entrance, the Yellow Wind King quickly armed himself with a 3-pronged steel fork and led his demons out of the cave. Standing outside, the Yellow Wind King shouted, "Which one is Sun Wukong?" Wukong, standing atop the tiger's corpse, replied, "Your grandpa is here! Hand over my master!" The demon saw Wukong's thin frame and short stature and mocked. "I thought you were a great warrior, but you look like a sickly ghost." Wukong laughed. "You've got no sense. Your grandpa may be small, but if you strike me with that fork, I'll grow 3 feet taller." The demon sneered. "Then take a hit from my fork," and swung it at Wukong's head. Wukong remained fearless, letting the fork strike his head. As it did, he bent his waist and grew over 10 feet tall. Startled, the demon quickly adjusted his fork to stab at Wukong's chest. Wukong parried with his iron cudgel, using a skill to deflect the fork, then swung at the demon's head. The two fought fiercely at the cave entrance, exchanging over 30 blows without a clear winner. Realizing the fight was dragging on, Wukong used his body-splitting technique, plucking a handful of hairs, chewing them into pieces, and blowing them into the air. The hairs transformed into over 100 Wukongs, each wielding an iron cudgel, surrounding the demon in the sky. Unable to defend himself, the demon turned and opened his mouth wide, blowing out a fierce yellow wind that swept into the sky, sending the 100 Wukongs spinning like tops. Wukong quickly shook off his hairs and reabsorbed them, charging forward with his cudgel. But the demon blew yellow wind at his face, forcing his fire eyes with golden pupils shut. Unable to fight, Wukong retreated as the demon returned to the cave. Meanwhile, Bajie, seeing the yellow wind darken the sky, crouched in a hollow with the horse and luggage, muttering prayers. Soon, he spotted Wukong approaching with tears streaming down his face. Bajie asked what happened, and Wukong said,
"That demon's wind is too strong. Let's find a place to stay for the night and come back tomorrow to fight him and rescue Master."
Bajie agreed. The two led the horse and luggage out of the hollow and heard dogs barking on a nearby slope. They spotted a manor and hurried over to seek shelter. An old man came out with several farmhands carrying tools. After learning about their journey, he invited them in, offered seats and tea, and later served sesame rice to satisfy their hunger. Noticing Wukong's swollen, tearful eyes, the old man asked what happened. Wukong explained his encounter at Yellow Wind Cave. The old man said, "That wind is called the Divine Samadhi wind. It darkens the sky, terrifies spirits, and can shatter rocks. Only immortals are immune." Wukong replied, "I may not be immortal, but my life isn't in danger, just my eyes hurt." The old man said, "I have a remedy called the 3-flower 9-seed ointment that cures wind-affected eyes." Wukong eagerly asked for treatment. The old man retrieved a small agate jar, used a jade pin to apply the ointment to Wukong's eyes, and told him to keep them closed and rest. It would heal by morning. Bajie laid out bedding for Wukong, who fumbled blindly, making Bajie laugh to himself. Wukong meditated for a while before falling asleep at midnight. At dawn, Wukong rubbed his face, opened his eyes, and exclaimed, "This medicine is amazing! My eyes feel brighter than ever!" Looking around, he saw no house, only trees. They had been sleeping under trees. Bajie woke up, panicked, and asked, "Where's my horse?" Wukong replied, "Tied to the tree, isn't it?" Bajie continued, "What about the luggage?" Wukong said, "Right by your side." Bajie said, "We must have been dead asleep. The whole house moved without a sound." Wukong laughed. "Fool, stop babbling. Look at the note on that tree." Bajie pulled it down and read, "This home was no mortal's abode, the Dharma Protector shelter bestowed. Wondrous balm for your eye relief, face the fiend with steadfast belief." Wukong said, "The Dharma Protector was helping us. The old man and matter were his illusions." Wukong continued, "The Yellow Wind Cave isn't far. Stay here with the horse and luggage while I find Master." Bajie said, "If Master's gone, we might as well part ways." Wukong scolded, "Don't talk nonsense. I'm going," and leapt to the cave entrance. The cave door was shut, and the demons were asleep. Wukong muttered a spell and turned into a speckled mosquito, flying inside. The gatekeeping demon dozed off, and Wukong bit his face. Startled awake, he yelled, "What a big mosquito! It left a bump!" He then opened the door. Wukong flew in and saw the Yellow Wind King readying weapons, telling the demons, "Yesterday's wind likely didn't kill Sun Wukong. If he comes back, I'll finish him." Wukong flew past the front hall and squeezed through the tightly shut rear door. Inside, he saw Sanzang tied to the wind-fixing post, crying and calling out for Wukong and Bajie. Wukong landed on Sanzang's head and said, "Master." Overjoyed, Sanzang replied, "Wukong, I missed you. Where are you?" Wukong said, "On your head. Don't worry, I'll catch the demon and rescue you." Wukong flew back and saw the Yellow Wind King deploying his forces. A little demon reported, "I saw a long snout, big-eared monk in the forest and barely escaped. The hairy-faced monk wasn't there." The Yellow Wind King said, "If Sun Wukong isn't here, he's either dead from the wind or off seeking reinforcements." The demons added, "If he survived and brings celestial soldiers, what will we do?" The Yellow Wind King said, "What celestial soldiers? Unless they bring Bodhisattva Lingji, no one can stop my wind." Overhearing this from the rafters, Wukong was delighted and quickly flew away. Wukong returned to his true form and found Bajie, telling him that they needed Bodhisattva Lingji to subdue the Yellow Wind King, though he didn't know where to find him. Just then, an old man appeared on the roadside. Bajie said, "If you want directions, ask the passers-by. Go and ask him." Wukong greeted the old man politely and said, "We are pilgrims traveling for scriptures. Our master was taken yesterday, and I'd like to ask where Bodhisattva Lingji lives." The old man replied, "Lingji is 2,000 miles away on Mount Lesser Sumeru. Take the winding path south to reach it." As Wukong turned to leave, the old man vanished into a breeze, leaving behind a note that read, "To the great sage equal to heaven, the old man was Li Changgung. Mount Lesser Sumeru holds the flying dragon staff, bestowed upon Lingji by the Buddha." Wukong exclaimed, "It's the great white planet lord pointing the way!" Bajie knelt and bowed to the sky, saying, "Great benefactor! It was the white planet lord who saved me by petitioning the Jade Emperor." Wukong said, "At least you're grateful. Stay here to guard the luggage and horse while I go to Mount Lesser Sumeru to find the Bodhisattva." Wukong leapt onto his somersault cloud and flew south. Soon, he saw a tall mountain wreathed in auspicious clouds, with a monastery nestled in its valley, filled with the sound of bells and the scent of incense. Wukong arrived at the gate and saw a monk chanting with prayer beads around his neck. He greeted him respectfully and said, "I am Sun Wukong, disciple of Tang Sanzang of the Great Tang. I need to see the Bodhisattva. Please inform him." The monk hurried to deliver the message. Hearing the news, the Bodhisattva donned his robes and welcomed Wukong. Seated as a guest, Wukong said, "My master is in danger at Yellow Wind Ridge. I've come to ask for your help to subdue the demon and save him." The Bodhisattva replied, "Under the Buddha's orders, I subdued the Yellow Wind King here and was given a wind-fixing pill and the flying dragon staff. I spared his life. I didn't expect him to harm your master, violating the Buddha's teachings. This is my fault." The Bodhisattva wished to host Wukong for a meal and conversation, but Wukong, concerned for his master, requested immediate action. The Bodhisattva took the flying dragon staff, and together they flew to Yellow Wind Mountain. The Bodhisattva said, "Great sage, this demon fears me. I'll wait in the clouds while you challenge him and lure him out so I can act." Wukong followed the instructions, descended from the clouds, broke down the door with his cudgel, and shouted, "Demon! Give me back my master!" The gatekeeping demon rushed to report. The Yellow Wind King exclaimed, "This insolent monkey! I'll use the divine wind this time and kill him." He quickly armed himself and charged out. Seeing Wukong, the demon said nothing and thrust his fork at Wukong's chest. Wukong countered with his cudgel. After a few exchanges, the demon turned and blew wind from his mouth. At that moment, the Bodhisattva threw the flying dragon staff down from the air. The Bodhisattva chanted a spell, and the flying dragon staff transformed into an 8-clawed golden dragon, which lunged at the Yellow Wind King. The dragon extended its claws, seized the Yellow Wind King, and hurled him against a rocky cliff. The demon reverted to his true form, a yellow-haired weasel. Wukong rushed forward, ready to strike, but the Bodhisattva stopped him, saying, "Great sage, don't kill him. I need to take him to see the Buddha. He was originally an enlightened mouse from the foot of Vulture Peak but stole the oil from the Buddha's glazed lamp. Fearing capture, he fled here and became a demon. The Buddha spared his life and placed him under my watch, with orders to capture him if he caused harm." The Bodhisattva continued, "Now that he has offended you and harmed Tang Sanzang, I'll take him to the Buddha to answer for his crimes. Only then will I fulfill my duty." Hearing this, Wukong thanked the Bodhisattva, who ascended into the sky and returned west. Meanwhile, Bajie was anxiously waiting in the forest when he heard Wukong calling, "Bajie, bring the horse and luggage out." Delighted, Bajie quickly packed up and ran out. Wukong told Bajie how he subdued the Yellow Wind King. They returned to the Yellow Wind Cave and killed all the remaining demons with their cudgel and rake. The two went to the rear yard and freed their master. After being untied, Sanzang asked, "How did you defeat the demon and rescue me?" Wukong recounted the story of inviting Bodhisattva Lingji to subdue the demon. Sanzang was deeply grateful. The three ate a simple meal in the cave before leaving Yellow Wind Cave, continuing west along the main road.